Welcome back, folks, for turn 2 of the Solitaire variant of Plains Indians War. And in the first video, or the first turn video, a couple of clarifications. So here, when I had drawn blue cavalry forces first, and I was putting them here, I think it was 3, and I did join with the 1, so I ended up with 4. I could have taken along what's called influence movement, these forces here. And then I didn't, which is fine. But then on the settler's turn, and I drew 4, and they moved here, as you see. I could have taken these along too, and I didn't. So it's not a goof. I can leave them for later turns, but I want to just clarify that I could have used them twice in the blue or the brown cube draw. So that was one. The other one was, I kept calling this the peace symbol. It's actually a treaty symbol, and it leads to peace. It causes, if both sides roll it, it causes engagements to end immediately. No casualties are taken for that roll, and then the weaker force has to move out. I want to clarify that in the Solitaire version, the AI, I didn't want anything complicated. So all retreat decisions, all decisions for the Indians are made by the U.S. player. And it's pretty basic. You're going to move them to your choice, but you move them to an adjacent region first. And if that's not available, then you move them to another area. So that's, I want to clarify that. And then what else? There was something else here. Oh yeah, the wagon trails. I was saying there's 6 in the southern area, and I actually thought there was 7. No, there's the sharp one is 5. Let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it splits off. This is 5, 6. So that's why this is labeled 5 and 6, so it's fair. You still have a chance of being hit if you take the shorter trail with a 5 or 6. You have 2 chances to get hit. Where here is 5, 6, you only have 1. So your choice, which way to go. And I think those were the clarifications or goofs that I might have made. So let's start with turn 2, and all the cubes are back in the bag. Turn order is determined by the draw, and we get the black cube. So the first time we drew it, we couldn't place any because I didn't take those settlers along, but they probably would have been killed in the action with the cavalry more than likely, and I would have been limited. But now, since we have cubes here, brown cubes, and what I like to do sometimes is kind of line them up. You can put maximum of 3 for each brown cube you have, and so we can do this. And here you go. That's out of St. Louis. So that the settlers did their job. They're not fighters, they're builders. Farmers, and maybe the railroad, the Irish building the railroad from this end, and the Chinese building the railroad from this end. So what about Sacramento? Well, you have to roll 2 brown dice and plow through the mountains, or blast through the mountains, I should say. So here we go. And no hits, that hurts. So we don't do anything on this end. We got to get this built because we want to get this force moving and clearing out this path this way. So that was the first draw. We move on to the second draw, and it's the wagons. So you take 2 wagon cubes. These will be white in the final production. You put them in St. Louis, and anything already on the plains, you move them 1 space up. So we move this one to this area, and this will be an engagement. And we move these 3 here, and there's an Indian force here, so this would be an engagement. And then what I'll do is I'll just split these up into these territories. So the first thing we do in the Solitaire rules, like the normal rules, is that we're going to conduct an engagement. And for each wagon cube, we roll a brown dice. And you're looking for, in the normal rules, 2 players, you'd have to get a hit. But any symbol that's rolled will be considered a hit in the Solitaire rules. So let's just roll, only have 2 brown dice, let's roll both. And we got 1 hit and 1 miss. So 1 hit, wagons removed to the score track over here. That's 1 point for the Indians. And the 1 miss is going to advance to the next region. You don't keep conducting engagements. That's the end of that cube's turn. Now this one we haven't rolled for, so let's roll a 3rd cube, and it's a hit. And so already the Indians have 2 points for killing the wagons. All right, now next we have an engagement here. despite the fact that there are 4 Indian cubes, it's only 1 wagon cube, so you only roll 1 dice or 1 die. And my goodness, it's a hit. So there you go. In the normal rules, using normal rules, it was very lopsided, very, very difficult, 1 in 6 chance to hit a wagon. And so the human player was adding up the points. So this is for balance purposes, just to renew. Each eliminated cube for the Indians is 1 point. Each wagon that reaches the Exodus to the Rockies will be placed here as 1 point for the U.S. player. And any wagon still on the trail will be half a point. In the regular game, it's 1 point, but in the solitaire version, it's half a point, all because of play balance. So there we are. Now, we're not done yet. We went through the first round. Now what you do is you roll 2d6. I have 1 red and 1 orange, representing northern and southern wagon trails. And we have a 2. So 1, section 2. There's none here, so nothing will happen. And then here is 6, so it's the last one. That's your wagon trail, southern wagon trail number 6. There's nothing here. So that's just a little extra impetus for the Indians to raid and attack the wagon. So that's it for the wagon turn. And we draw the 3rd cube, and it's orange. So the AI takes effect. We find 2 D12s. We roll, and we have an 8, and that is a 9. So these are labeled 1 through 12. These are D12s. So you take 2 cubes, and you put 1, 2, and 8. And now there's already 3. So you can only have a max of 4, so only one's going to be placed. And what I like to do is I like to square these up to show that this is a concentration. And at the end of the game, if you don't break this up, it's 1 point for the Indians for control of the territory, plus 4 for having a concentration. That's 5 points here and 5 points here. That's something that the American forces cannot ignore. So that was 8, and the other one's a 9. So we take 2 cubes, and we find the 9, and we place them here. So they're starting to populate, and there's no other conflict. This is not a conflict. So that's the end of orange turn. Draw cube number 4. And the Indians are coming out back to back. So it's Northern Plains, red turn to place. And we have a 1 and a 10. Take 2 red cubes, and we place it in region number 1, right here in the north. And we 2 red cubes, and we place it in the Black Hills. Where is the Black Hills? Number 10, Black Hills. And that's important in that it's, and I marked it with my cubes. This doesn't come with the game, but little hut here to show that this is a key location. It's worth 2 points to the U.S. player if they control it. There's also a card in the Settlers deck that's going to be Black Hills, and you get to fight it and try to win it there. So I'm not too worried about that right now. So any concentration, yes, there's not concentration, but any engagement right here. So this wagon moved here. This is going to be considered an engagement because occupying. So what you do is you take 1 brown dice per rule, and you roll, and it's a miss. So no hit, but since it was attacked by normal rules, it advances 1 space, and you don't continue to do it. That's the end of that turn. So there you have it, end of red turn, and we now are going to go to the draw bag, and it's the Settlers. All right, so we have the James Beckworth card, which protects the wagon trails. I don't want to use it now because I only have 2 on the trail. Actually 3. Wait a little bit more to use it. But this is another text card you can use in addition to your migration card. So what does it say? Central Pacific Railroad. No attacks against regions adjacent to either railhead for the remainder of the current draw. Well, the railhead, and my interpretation would be right here. This is the railhead. So no attacks here. And the railhead's in the mountains here. So that's one reason I don't want to use it. It's only effective for 1, 2 territories. I want it to be effective for at least 4 territories. And the other thing is that for the remainder of the disc draw, well, look, the Indians already came out. Orange and red already came out. So there's not going to be any attack. So let's save it for a future turn. Just wanted to explain that. And so the only thing I want to do is play the Exodus. And I'd like to read some of these. To escape racial violence, 40,000 African Americans migrated from states along the Mississippi to Kansas, beginning in 1879. Their move was promoted and supported by prominent men, among them Henry Adams and John Singleton. Also should note that many in the Reconstruction era moved into the cities, so into Atlanta, into New Orleans, and then others migrating to the bigger cities out west, but also to the north. And there will be other migrations later. So what do you do? Add 4 brown cubes. 3 groups can be activated, move up to 2 regions. So we go to the pool. We look for 4. And they can either go in St. Louis. I'm going to bring these out now just to show I have them. Or you can split any number over here. So I like to start building this up. And we got a lot over here already. So let me go ahead and using the influence movement later, what I like to do is each blue can take along 2 browns, or each brown can take along 1 blue. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 here, okay, of my placement. And then I'll move these 3 over, leave 1 here plus these. I have 4. So activation, I don't want to fight these guys. So I'm not going to worry about that. These aren't fighters. These are farmers and railroad builders. We could possibly take this guy out. It's pretty costly. I don't really want to. I've got my 3 guys here. And yep, I can try to seize that area. But I think what I'd like to do is just wait, because then the cavalry forces can take them in their turn through influence movement and move there. So I'm actually not gonna exercise any movement. I like to control the territory with at least one force there. So I get 1 point for this area. And these 3 are ready to build the next section of the railroad. These guys cannot move yet because the railroad's not complete. And that's the end of brown turn. All I gotta do is replenish this card. It wasn't the best move, but I think it's an effective move for later turns. Okay, we got a couple of discs left. Cavalry and in the purple region, and it's the cavalry forces. So we have 3 engagement cards, 2 cubes, 2 groups, move 1 region, 3 cubes, 2 groups, 2 region, 4 cubes. So, you know, do we want a big fight? Well, there's a big fight here maybe we can go after, and there's a small fight there. So maybe we'll go, we don't need the 3 move. One's not going to help us. And so 2, let's go with the 4. Let's utilize add 4 cubes. Putting out this card, we're going to take from the pool 4, right? And I'm going to move them here. I like to put 1 here, but I may need it here. I want to take out this group here. And if I have extra, maybe this one also here. So what you can do is each cavalry through influence movement can take 2 settlers with them. So 1, 2, 1, 2. So we have that effect. I think I'll just take 3. And then over here, okay, over here I want at least 1 here. And then I got this extra 1. Sometimes I like to, if I put it here, then after it's built, I can move this guy, I can move these 2 out. But I need them now. I need them against this force here. I'm going to bring them in. And so we're going to have 2 engagements. All right. I'm only activated 1 group, but I don't have any others really to activate. So here we go. Let's do the red first. That's a single cube, so that's an Indian ambush. So what you do in an ambush is per regular rules. You take 1 red dice, you roll it, it's a miss. All right, so we're gonna have this fight over here, 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 brown cube. We roll. We've got a treaty symbol, and the Indians get a hit. So usually take from the larger group that's even. This is a weak fighter, so he's cannon fodder. Put him in a casualty box, and we go at it again. remove the brown cube. We got one blue, one red cube. And there's the cavalry guys. They're very effective. That's a hit. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 1 treaty symbol. So 50-50 chance of hitting. These guys are good. And he takes care of the action. So we clear this area for the future settlers. So now we get 3 areas. Now here's the big action right here. It's not an ambush because there's a group of 4. So most you can have on the dice are 2. So we get 2 orange dice. We get 2 blue dice and 2 brown dice. That's a lot of dice in my hand. 6 dice. By the way, the maximum number of rules for the U.S. forces is going to be 8. So we could have 2 more in here. The max for the solitaire game for the Indians is going to be 4. So that's the max they can have. So here we go. All right. We got, well, I'll tell you what we did here. So there are 2 hits, but the hits are nullified because both sides roll peace symbols. So these are ignored. The hits are ignored. And what you do in this situation is who is the majority of the U.S. forces, so the minority force has to retreat. Now, in the solitaire version, all the retreat decisions are made by the U.S. player per rules. So they can't move here, all right? So they can move here. I can cross over here and move here. And that's mixing. In any battle, you're going to be rolling 2 dice, so I really don't want to do that. It's rare to have a mix, and I control that. I can move 1 here, but now I'm making these concentrate. I'm kind of limited. I'm going to have to move 1 here. Now here's a concentration I'm going to have to deal with. I'll move 1 here. These are adjacent. There's another concentration. This is not looking good. And then these 2 are just going to have to move here. And that's the retreat option. And that's Union player's turn. Draw a card to get a full hand of 3. And we move on. There's only 1 cube left to complete turn 2. And it's purple. Okay. Now, again, if you watch the first video, under the solitaire rules, you're looking for Indian concentrations of 2. So there's no red in the north, and in the south, there's none in the purple zone. So if there were, you would then add one orange or red cube adjacent to the 2 cube concentration. Doesn't exist, so we move on to the next portion of the solitaire rules for purple. A lot of activity going on. You roll 2 d6, red representing northern purple, orange representing southern purple, and in that numbered sector you roll, so the northern enemy's territory 3, you're going to put 2, max of 2 in that area, and it won't be any engagement there initially. And then in this one, number 4, which should be right here, okay, E4, you're going to put 2. So we're going to have an engagement here. Now before we have the engagement, purple takes its normal turn. Take 1 from the pool, and you could place it anywhere north or south. Now, I already told you about the 2 cube concentration, so you kind of want to break that up. What I'll try to do is I'll break it up here to put my 1 cube there, and then I get 1 activation. It could be in the north, it could be in the south, or it could be taking this 1 cube, which I'll wait to a bigger turn. I can activate by taking a casualty and moving it there. I won't do that. So where do I want to move? This is I have some guys here. I think I want to put my effort. I'm going to move these 2 here. It'll be 3 against 2. And all I'm going to try to do up here is hopefully to get 1 hit to break up the 2 cube concentration. After a while, as the game goes on, you almost have to send in U.S. forces to help these purple guys out. It becomes overwhelming. All right, so let's take care of the northern area. Engagement, there's 2 red and 1 purple dice. Roll, and it's not good. It failed. It's 1 hit only for the Indians, and that purple guy's eliminated. So that's a threat for next turn. First spreading. Down here, 2 orange and 2 purple. Okay, orange gets a hit. Remove one purple to the casualty box. Roll again. And now this time purple gets a hit on orange. So it's 2 to death. There's no retreating for the Indians. The American forces can always exercise the blank dice by retreating 1, but we're not. We want to clear this out. So it's going to be 2 purple against 1 orange. And purple finishes it off with 1 hit. And there we go. So success in the southern purple enemy's region and failure in the north. And that's the end of purple's turn. And that's the 7 disc. And that's the end of turn 2, folks.